She was supposed to die in silence. Instead, she changed Pakistan forever. A lawyer reacts true Pakistani courtroom story. Channel at Karamat Janjua. Section 1. The hook, midnight to 1 o'clock. Deep, dramatic, slow. In a small village in rural Punjab, Pakistan, a young woman walked out of a mud-walled room after the most horrific night of her life. According to the customs of her village, she was supposed to be dead by morning. The tradition was clear. The expectation was clear. A woman in her position was supposed to go home and take her own life. That was what was expected. That was what had always happened before. 3-second pause. But she didn't. Instead, she walked to the police station. She spoke. She filed a case against the most powerful clan in her district. And what happened next sent shockwaves from a tiny village in Muzaffargarh all the way to the United Nations in New York. 2-second pause. My name is Karamat Hussain Janjua. I am a lawyer, and today I am going to tell you the true story of Mukhtar Mai, the most extraordinary underdog legal battle in Pakistan's history. Stay with me, because this story will change how you see courage, how you see justice, and how you see the power of one single voice against an entire system. Section 2. Subscribe moment 1 to 130. Warm, direct, leaning forward. Before I go further, if you believe that the law should protect the weak, not just the powerful, if you believe that one ordinary person can stand up and move the entire machinery of justice, then this channel was made for you. Hit subscribe right now. Every week, I bring you real cases, real courtrooms, and real human stories that will teach you something no law school ever will. Now, let me take you back to the year 2002. Section 3. The village 1:30 to 3 o'clock. Professor Tone, calm, educational. The village of Mirwala, District Muzaffargarh, Punjab, Pakistan. A place where the Mastoi clan, a wealthy, powerful, and heavily armed tribal group, controlled almost everything. The land, the water, the police, the local councils. Mukhtar Mai was a woman from the Tatla caste, a lower status family. She was illiterate. She had no money, no connections, no influence. She was, by every social measure of that village, nobody. Pause. In June 2002, her 12-year-old brother Abdul Khaliq was accused by the Mastoi clan of having an inappropriate relationship with a woman from their clan. Whether this was true or false did not matter to the Mastoi elders. What mattered was their so-called honor. A panchayat, an informal village council, was called, and the Mastoi elders issued a ruling. Lower voice, slow and deliberate. The punishment for this alleged dishonor would be visited not on the 12-year-old boy, but on his innocent sister, Mukhtar Mai. 4-second pause. On the orders of that council, on the night of June 22nd, 2002, 4 men from the Mastoi clan gang raped Mukhtar Mai while a crowd of approximately 300 people stood outside. She was then forced to walk home, through that crowd, in torn clothing, as a public humiliation, as a message, as a warning to anyone who would dare challenge Mastoi power. Section 4. The choice 3 to 4:30 emotional, slower. Now I want you to stop here for a moment. Put yourself in that position. No money, no education, no powerful family behind you. The entire village watching. An armed, wealthy clan who had just shown you exactly what they were capable of. Every voice around you, every tradition, every custom, every social norm was saying, stay silent. This is over. Go home. Accept it. Pause. Mukhtar Mai did not accept it. The next morning, she went to the police station. She filed a first information report. She named her attackers. As a lawyer, I want you to understand exactly how extraordinary that was. In rural Pakistan in 2002, for a woman of her background, filing that FIR was not just brave. It was an act that defied every single power structure that existed in her world. She did not have a lawyer. She did not have money. She did not have education. She had one thing, and one thing only, the truth. Section 5. First victory for 30 to 6 o'clock. Build momentum. On September 1st, 2002, just a few months after filing her case, an anti-terrorism court in Dera Ghazi Khan delivered a stunning verdict. 6 men were convicted. 5 of them were sentenced to death. The sixth received a life sentence. Pause. For a brief moment. It seemed like justice had actually worked. A poor, illiterate woman from a small village had stood up against one of the most powerful clans in her district, and she had won. International media picked up the story. Newspapers in London, New York, Paris were writing about this woman from Mirwala who had dared to fight back. She was invited to speak internationally. She used the government compensation money she received, 500,000 rupees, not for herself, but to build a school in her village, because she believed, as a woman who could not read or write, that education was the only real weapon against the system that had wronged her. Pause. Emotional. This woman had no law degree, no legal training whatsoever, but she understood something that many lawyers spend entire careers missing. Justice is not just a courtroom result. Justice is what you build afterward. Section 6. The system fights back 6 to 8 o'clock. Tension builds. Voice becomes more serious. But then the system fought back. In March 2005, the Lahore High Court reviewed the case on appeal, and in a ruling that shocked the nation, the High Court overturned 5 of the 6 convictions, citing insufficient evidence. 5 men who had been sentenced to death were suddenly free. Pause. As a lawyer, I will be honest with you. Reading that judgment, even today, it is deeply troubling. Human rights organizations around the world condemned it. Women's groups in Pakistan took to the streets. Legal experts questioned the reasoning, but the case was not over, because Mukhtar Mai, this illiterate village woman who had already been fighting for 3 years, looked at that high court ruling and said, "I will go to the Supreme Court." Pause. Now, let me put that in perspective. The Supreme Court of Pakistan, the highest court in the land, filled with the most senior judges in the country, a world away, literally and figuratively, from the mud roads of Mirwala, Muzaffargarh. And Mukhtar Mai, with no legal training, limited resources, and facing constant threats to her life, was going to take her case there. Section 7. The government intervenes 8 to 9:30. Gravely serious. This is the most shocking section. But before she could even file her appeal, something happened that made this case truly extraordinary. The government of Pakistan put Mukhtar Mai on the exit control list. This is a list that bans citizens from leaving the country. She had been invited by Amnesty International to travel to London to speak about her case. She had a visa for the United States. Human rights organizations across the world wanted to hear her story, and the government of Pakistan confiscated her passport. Then President Pervez Musharraf, when asked about this decision, said publicly that he did not want to project a bad image of Pakistan. Pause. Look directly at camera. I want you to think about that statement as a lawyer and as a citizen. A woman had been gang raped on orders of a tribal council. She had bravely filed a case, won a conviction, and was trying to speak about her ordeal to the world. And the response of the state was, she is the bad image, not the rape, not the tribal council, not the powerful men who walk free. Her voice was a problem. Pause for seconds. Mukhtar Mai was briefly detained, barred from contacting anyone, including her lawyer, described by human rights lawyer Asma Jahangir as being in illegal custody. Eventually, after massive international outcry, her passport was returned, but the message had been sent. The most powerful institution in the country had tried to silence her. Section 8. What she did instead, 9:30 to 11 o'clock, warm admiration in voice. And this is where Mukhtar Mai showed something that no courtroom could ever teach. While her legal case continued its slow and painful journey, she went home to Mirwala, and she built schools. She started with 4 students, for girls, in a village where it was considered shameful for girls to be educated. While fighting her case, while living under threat, while dealing with the trauma of everything that had been done to her, she sat with those 4 girls and she taught them. Pause. Today, those schools have over 1,300 students. She runs a women's shelter, a mobile safe haven for women escaping abusive situations. An entire organization, the Mukhtar Mai Women's Organization, that has transformed the lives of thousands. As a lawyer, I have represented many people. I have seen people destroyed by injustice. I have seen people consumed by bitterness when the system fails them. What Mukhtar Mai did was different. She converted her pain into a school, her trauma into hope for 1,300 children. That is not just courage. That is extraordinary human strength. Section 9, the Supreme Court 11 to 1230, back to legal analysis mode. Now, let me give you my legal analysis of what happened in Pakistan Supreme Court. The Supreme Court took up Mukhtar Mai's case through suo motu jurisdiction, meaning the court itself intervened, recognizing the importance of this matter for the entire country. This was a positive and powerful step. It showed that Pakistan's highest court understood what was at stake, not just for Mukhtar Mai, but for every woman in Pakistan who might one day need the courage to speak up. As a lawyer, there are critical legal lessons from this entire case. Lesson 1. The FIR is your most powerful weapon. From the moment Mukhtar Mai filed that first information report, she set the legal machinery in motion. Without that brave FIR, nothing else would have been possible. Everything started with those words she spoke at that police station. Lesson 2. Higher courts exist for a reason. When the lower courts failed her, she did not give up. She appealed, then appealed again. The legal system has multiple levels precisely because trial courts and high courts can make mistakes. Never assume one verdict is the final word. Lesson 3. International attention changes domestic cases. The global coverage of Mukhtar Mai's case created enormous pressure on Pakistani institutions, international media, human rights organizations, foreign governments, all played a role in keeping this case alive. In today's world, your story can reach the world if you have the courage to tell it. Lesson 4. Justice is bigger than a verdict. The final Supreme Court verdict in 2011 was deeply disappointing for many. Only one man remained convicted. But Mukhtar Mai had already won something far more important than a courtroom result. She had changed the national conversation about women's rights in Pakistan, permanently and irrevocably. Section 10, closing 1230 to 1330, warm, sincere, direct, speaking from the heart. I want to end with something personal. When I first studied this case as a lawyer, I was struck not by the legal arguments. I was struck by one simple fact. Mukhtar Mai could not read. She could not write. She had never been inside a courtroom in her life. She had no money, no influence, no powerful family. She lived in a village where her very survival after what happened was considered a source of shame. And yet, she walked into that police station. She spoke her truth. She fought her case through trial court, high court, government intervention, international pressure, all the way to the Supreme Court of Pakistan. Pause. She did not win every legal battle, but she won something larger. She proved that in Pakistan, a poor, illiterate village woman could stand up against the most powerful forces in her world and make them answer for what they had done. She proved that one voice, when it speaks with absolute truth and absolute courage, cannot be permanently silenced, not by a panchayat, not by a high court acquittal, not by a government travel ban, not even by a final Supreme Court verdict. Pause 3 seconds. Today, over 1,300 children go to school because of Mukhtar Mai, because she refused to die in silence. That is the most powerful courtroom lesson I have ever encountered in my career. Not what the judge said, not what the lawyers argued, but what one ordinary woman decided to do with her pain. Final pause. My name is Karamat Hussain Janjua. I am a lawyer, and I share these stories because justice, real justice, begins the moment one person decides that their truth is worth fighting for. If this story moved you, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear today, and tell me in the comments below, do you think Mukhtar Mai got justice?